Hey Joyce,
Hey,
what time did I tell you I was gonna be there on Tuesday? Because you had asked this Chris. You had asked me to come through.
I hold on. You know what? I don't have my list.
Okay, well just shoot me an email.
I will.
All right,
I will.
let me
I
get
will.
through here, please.
Okay. So,
All right, y'all stay warm because it's crazy out
hey,
there.
it was nice when I left.
It ain't joking.
I know it. I'm
Take this. Woo, ah, man.
You're gonna be going for a second, so I'm
Go ahead. No, do what you're doing. What's going on out there? We're getting ready to get started in just a few minutes. Y'all see our brother is dressed for winter time. Whew. Come on, like, tag, and share this post. Let's get involved in this conversation. It's time for a reality check for Black America. We're gonna talk about the '94 crime bill. We hear so much about it. Let's really just talk about it. Get it out the way. And let's make some decisions that may be hard but are necessary. All right. See you guys coming in. Good evening to you all that are out there coming in. Whew. Good evening, good evening, good evening. See y'all coming in out there. All right. You guys are coming in. I'm so glad to see you all. Evening, Rebecca, Carla, Geraldine. The rest of you out there, share your links so that I can see who you are. We're going to begin starting in just a couple minutes here. I don't know who ordered this weather. Tag your family, friends. Let's get in this conversation. Why am I blurred? I have no idea. I don't look blurred to me. Did that help?
Stand by, Kareem, you're on the suit. Stand by. Sassy is brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org. Remember, adopt. Welcome to Move Time Radio. Kiss 107.1. It's WTLZ Saginaw, home of the Steve Harvey Morning Show, and simply the best R&B all day. Take us everywhere. Your smartphone, the JOB, and your Alexa smart device. We have 3-minute spots after play. Okay, we have 3-minute spots. So I'm gonna put you on a break at some point after your
Okay.
what's on my mind thing. Okay.
Well, good evening, Saginaw. This is Kareem, and you've tuned into another edition of Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen. I'm going to ask that those of you who are watching us on social media, I think Old Man Winter is coming in and making me move in slow motion. We're going to hopefully, this internet connection will pick up so that you guys will have a more enjoyable viewership on today. We're going to continue. Maybe if you log out and come back in, but I'm seeing exactly what you guys are seeing as well. So I want to say, hey, shout out to everybody out there. It is cold outside. Man, what happened? The bottom fell out of the temperatures, and it is now feeling like a Michigan winter. But I've got good news. I hear that this week is going to be like a return to spring for one short week with highs in the mid to the upper 60s. That will be a welcome retreat. Those of you out there, I want you guys to like, tag, share, get some people involved in this conversation because we're going to talk about something that I continually hear. It came up today in a meeting that I was in, and we're going to talk a little bit about what are the realities of this vote. I want to talk a little bit about the '94 crime bill, and I want to talk about what is really at stake for us as a community, and how is it that we need to move forward. Yeah, so I think what it is that I'm having some issues with on social media. Those who are watching via social media, I believe it might be my connection. We will see what's going on, and if necessary, I will make some adjustments. All right, so let's see how this works. Just stay tuned, stick with me, and we'll get this thing all taken care of. Okay, all right. Because when I'm looking at me in the studio, I'm looking good, but when I see you guys and what you guys are seeing, I do know and recognize what you guys are talking about. Oh, all right. So we're going to I want to first of all give a shout out to everybody out there who has early voted. I mean, it is ridiculous. Y'all like doing the thing out there. And so I'm excited about all of those who are out there. How many of you are excited about this coming Tuesday? I'm so excited to vote. It is like, Rob, I feel like I'm going to like the state championships or something.
Wait a minute. Did you say you're excited to vote?
I'm excited to vote. See,
Well,
I'm one of those.
See, I'm different. I voted already, so I don't have to be excited about it.
Well,
I'm all ready to go, dude.
I'm glad you voted because I think the geriatrics in the world should probably get out there earlier. Seeing COVID
Hey!
is on the rise, but for a young, debonair young man like myself, I always look forward to going to the polls, and so I'm excited about Tuesday coming. I want to put my vote in. My voice matters. Your voice matters. So let's make sure we vote. I want to talk about a reality check for voting, Black America. Let's get in here today. Please bring your friends, bring your family. I'm gonna probably talk about a few things that some of y'all may not want to hear, but this is straight talk. We're gonna give it to you straight, no chaser, no filter, getting straight to the heart of the matter. So welcome back to another edition, and we're gonna see what's going on. I'm also hearing something in my ear, Rob. I'm not sure what's going on. Okay, so a lot of people have already voted. I'm thankful for everyone who voted. Whenever you vote, let's vote. All right. All right. What's on my mind? Oh my gosh. I am so geeked. What's on our mind? So I want to talk first of all, and I want to give a personal heart and prayer request for the family of the gospel icon, Reverend Rance Allen. We all know that he has made his transition. You know him as the guy who's saying do 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 something about that name Jesus. Well, he is no longer with us. He has made his heavenly transition. Our thoughts and prayers are with him, as well as one of my favorite old school actors, Sean Connery. You knew him as James Bond 007. But I remember him from a movie that was called The Rock, I think, or Escape from Alcatraz, one of those movies. And it was an amazing movie. So two great legends in their own right that are no longer with us. They have transitioned. I'll tell you, 2020 has been quite the year. It has been quite the year in terms of losing people and the things that are going on. But I'm expecting a turnaround. I don't know about you. I'm just hoping and believing that things are going to get better. If you're out there, you're listening to us on the radio at 107.1 FM. That's Kiss 107 WTLZ. Or you're listening to us via social media at 107.1. I think it's Kiss WTLZ
.com.
on Facebook, or you can go to wwtlz.com and listen to this in its entirety right there. Get to the page and it will pop up and you will hear all of this delicious conversation. Or check us out on Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen on social media. All right, so gospel icon, rock, but we got some news here, and so I'm glad Rob has pulled up a chair, and
As I usually do.
as you usually do. He loves coming to the table and having conversation with me. But I'm going to the polls. That's right. Get to the polls. If you're not working the polls and you're young or you've already voted, get out and try to volunteer to work the polls. Let's make some stuff happen. All right. Let's make this a family affair.
Okay, now watch your language.
All right. So we don't need you to watch the polls. But before I get to the chorus of what we're talking about, let's share it, Robin. I think that you're here and we've gotten all of the signatures and everything is done and it's signed, sealed, delivered. I'm yours. Y'all know I got a song for everything. But the news is, and I shared with you all that there was upcoming news about a new show on WSGW. We have now confirmed United Shades of Grey, conversations about race in America. Guess who's going to be my producer, y'all? Yours truly, the Rob Father. I said, my man's got to come with me.
I'm very excited about that, Kareem, and we're looking forward to working together. And I enjoy working with you, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm ecstatic that you will have me. I'm ecstatic that my bosses will have me. So that says a lot.
Hey, we're a team, my man.
There you go.
We're a team. So this is going to be a new frontier that we're still going to do straight talk. We're still going to have these conversations, candid conversations, and then we'll go to WSGW and we'll have these very candid conversations. My mom is like, I'm gonna be praying for you. We need bodyguards. What's going on? Those of you who are out there and you have you maybe you got a chance. I know we played it a couple times on air here to listen to the time when I went over and visited with the Art Lewis show. It was a very I don't want to say explosive, but it was a
Interesting conversation.
interesting.
Interesting, because the conversation was started. It's like when you take a match and you start a spark or something. You got to see where that spark's going to go.
Yeah,
It's either going to fizzle out or it's going to make more of a fire. Or
yeah, we were hoping that we wouldn't get an explosion in my first two visits over, but we saw that here talking about issues of race on Straight Talk, I think it's important for me to give you information and empower you and to equip you and to bring in resources so that you can be equipped and empowered. But I think that in many times when we talk about those kinds of issues, I said I can't be preaching to the choir because
No. It's just that people are afraid to have those conversations, and they're uncomfortable about it. Because I'll just tell you straight up, I'm not speaking for myself, not for the company. And my experience, I've noticed that white people, I noticed in the Navy, they're comfortable talking about race with people of color, whereas people of color are not afraid to talk about race with people
they
white.
get real scared.
And I've learned this in the military. This is the military.
Yeah, so it gets it's getting interesting. And so Rob kind of broke things down that I really didn't see it. Me being a younger guy, we go out, and those of you who are near my age, the young folk, I still consider myself a young person. We get together, and when we decide that we're going to do something, we just do it. We don't think about the pros, the cons, the challenges. And Rob, he set me down like, daddy does son, like, let me tell you what's going on here. And I didn't realize that, Rob, you were telling me that I am actually the first black voice at the radio, at the mic on that station. And so, I guess, hey, I'm the Jackie Robinson of WSGW.
Yeah, at least to my knowledge, it was in the town I worked there.
All right, so this it's big, and I understand what that means, Rob. For you as a producer, I understand what this means for us as a community. And my desire is never to go over and to make people angry or to make people mad. But I think that everything that we desire to see change has to start with a conversation.
Yes.
And the conversation may not be an easy conversation, but it's one that has to be had. And so they're putting us in a place to where we can talk about the issues that are at hand, face to face with the people that have the ability in many instances to make change. Do we believe that this radio station is going to change everything? We'll sing kumbaya? No, not at all.
No, but it's something that comes from the Bible. I can't think of the verse now for my studies of the Bible. I remember something that says, "Let's reason together."
Let us reason
so
together.
that's what we're doing. We could come to reasoning. We don't have to argue. It could have like my opinion or anything, or your opinion. It could be a difference of a whole lot there. But at least you get to have an idea. Now, just to be clear, Kareem Bowen is not speaking for the black community.
Absolutely.
Let's make that clear. Okay?
Absolutely. I'm not the voice of Black America.
No.
But I am a voice of Black America. And so y'all know I got your back. I'm going to do the best that I can to work with what we have. All right, so let's get back to what's on my mind. So I want to say that so that we're starting actually the week of the 12th.
No, the 11th.
Yeah. But it's the week.
Right, the week of the 12th.
Yes. So 1 p.m. on November the 11th.
On the stream.
On the stream, we'll do our live stream in the studio here, and then the show will actually air on WSGW as a part of their
AM, right?
Absolutely.
790 on Sunday at 7 o'clock.
790 at 7 o'clock. So I'm excited about that taking place. All right, but let's get back to what's on my mind. What's going on, y'all? I mean, Halloween. I know Halloween was coming. I saw so many parents letting their kids out during the highest height of the pandemic. Like, what in the world is going on? Who is your mama? No, but I was saying, like, don't ring my doorbell. Don't come to my house. Sanitize it when you leave. But this has been a very different year. What I've learned about this year, and what I've learned about myself, and what I've learned about us as Americans, is that we have very little self-control. We want to do what we want to do when we want to do it, and we don't like not being able to do those things. And so we are now in a situation that, hey, this year is going to be different. Mark it up as being different. Number 45 said that we may not have Christmas or Thanksgiving if Joe Biden won. But I said, yoo-hoo, you will still be president in November and December should you lose the election. So somebody needs to let him know a little bit about civics. So COVID-19 madness, it is out of control. The numbers are absolutely ridiculous. Come on, my people. We got to make sure that we hunker down. Let's not deal with mitigation fatigue. And that means that we get tired of sanitizing. We get tired of washing our hands. We get tired of social distancing.
Try to wear a mask.
Get tired of wearing a mask. This is too serious. And the numbers are going through the roof. One thing that is true is that I don't think that a doctor is going to lie for any political campaign. And so there are hospitals and doctors and ERs, and we've got to also think about them because they spend so much time taking care of us. When we are lackluster in our performance in terms of protecting ourselves, we then force upon them the need to have to take care of us when we could do so much better to make sure that we are okay. Hopefully he resigns after the election. Deonis, that would be so funny if I didn't think that he ever wanted to be president, but if he wants to resign early, we'll take that as well. All right. But anyway, so COVID-19, it is real. It's getting real out here. Our numbers are higher than ever before. Other countries in across the seas are shutting back down. I think the UK is talking about a month-long shutdown.
Yes.
We need to recognize. We need to think about this. Let's be smart. Thanksgiving, Halloween, and I saw so many grown folks dressed up for Halloween. I said, COVID has made everybody crazy. My own uncle was out there, Batman. I'm like, come on, my man, where you going? There is no need for us to put ourselves in certain situations that will jeopardize who we are and our family. And
on top of the fact that we have the flu season here, and a lot of people not getting their flu shots.
You know what? I'm glad you said that, Rob, because they were just saying that they're getting their first cases of individuals who are both positive for COVID and for the flu. And so this is a double whammy. So we got to take care of ourselves, y'all. Let's take care of ourselves. Let's focus back in.
Especially
thanks.
If you have a pre-existing condition. Okay, if you have a pre-existing condition, you should not really be putting yourself at risk.
Absolutely. Social media follower Jeff Bulls. I agree with you. After I said that he could resign, I thought about the fact that Pence would be president. We don't just take over with someone new. All right. So Halloween madness. Did y'all allow y'all kids to go out there? I mean, there were literally kids walking down my street and there were like no lights on. So I said, this is the worst Halloween ever. Y'all should have got kids and just threw it at the kids and had a candy parade. Did you allow your kids to go out during this Halloween season? And if you did, why? I mean, you don't know who has COVID. They played with the hands and put the candy all in the bags, and you don't know what kind of, in addition to the Reese's Pieces chocolate, what other pieces you may have brought home with you.
Now, you know what? Back in the day, we thought razor blades were a thing,
Yeah.
But now,
Yeah, you had to go get your candy scanned.
Yeah.
But we're living in a day right now. So listen, 2020 is going to be different. Let's get that through our heads.
But it's almost over.
It is almost over. But this situation that we're dealing with may not be almost over. So we've got to hunker down. We've got to stay focused. We got to begin. Yes, I turned my lights off too. People were mad. I didn't care. Get off my porch. I don't want no more COVID. But we've got to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves. We got to hunker back down. And if it's not for you, and if you think that you are invincible, think about someone. Think about your grandmother. Think about your family member who suffers from diabetes or high blood pressure, the obese family member, whatever. We have to be able to do this for one another, all right? Every single time I get out there and I want to do something, I'm like, I'm free, I'll be fine. I think about my mother. I think about the other people that I'm around. I think about the fact that when you're gone, you're putting a hole that's in the shape of you in someone's heart, those who love you heart. So we've got to make sure that we're doing what is right.
You're a public figure, though. You have a church and whatnot. So you
absolutely
more of a section.
Absolutely.
Not just getting it, but you could be a super spreader. Someone gets it to you.
Absolutely. So no, bye. No. So here we go. So I wanted to talk about that, but I also want to we're going to get to the meat of what we're going to talk about today. But did you guys see that Biden's bus was harassed by the Trump train?
I just saw the video.
They lowered them on a major interstate, which was 70 miles per hour, down to 20 miles per hour. And, then one of the cars actually got hit by one of the trucks. And so they were pulled over to the side of the road trying to figure out what was going on. And your crazy president, number 45, got on and said, they were protecting them. They were escorting them to their next location. This is a bunch of foolery. I cannot deal with the
There's some fine
tomfoolery.
people there. Some fine people,
Man,
both
come on,
sides.
this is just ridiculous. And I just cannot believe that this is what we have come to as a nation. But we're going to get to this conversation about the 94 crime bill. I want to get through some of this other stuff that's important for you to know. We also heard that the USPS is uncertain if some of these mail-in ballots, come on, you can't mail nothing in right now. If you got the ballot, go drop it off in the drop box, and get your vote in. They're talking about some of these dates, some of these votes that people have put in already, maybe weeks late. So which means that they're trying to cancel out your vote once again. This is really undermining your constitutional right for your voice being a vote. All
Can I
right.
say something about that, Kareem, real quick?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
The votes are not all counted on election day. Okay, they take a few days to do that. They have to count the military absentee ballots, all that.
That's even in a post pre-COVID situation.
Right, right. So it's nothing new here, you know. So don't think that all your votes. You're not going to find out who's the president or the same president on election night. You may not find that out to find the results until 2 or 3 days later. And then, even then, Congress still has to declare that in December.
All right, all right. So yeah, so this is normal. This is not something weird, but this is normal. So listen. Oh, but I'll tell you what. Today I had a great opportunity to host. I've been sharing with you guys about some stuff that I've been doing. So it is official. KBS Creative Business Solution is now in effect, and it's so cool that one of our first tasks was that we were able to host our congressman from the U.S. Congress, Kildee, as well as our Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist today in a forum with young folks, 18 to 30 years old, entrepreneurs. It was an interesting thing. I did record that conversation on my personal page, Kareem Bowen. Go check it out. But we're open for business. So if you're looking for office space, those things, come. We need to begin to be the answers to our own problems that we have. We need businesses. We got to figure out how to make those things happen. And that's what KBS is all about. So we had a great time with him today. Get out and vote, people. It's time for us to vote. So what I found out today, and the reason I brought that up was because who can vote? I found out something today that I didn't really understand to be true. And they said it's easier to tell us who can't vote. Everyone who is not incarcerated has the right to vote. Whether you're a felon, an ex-felon, whatever the situation, if you are not actively locked up, if you are pre-incarceration, and you are, found guilty, whatever, if you are not locked up, you have the right to vote. Now, this is the cool thing, because Michigan has it to where you can go and register and vote at the same time. Find out what your polling station is based upon your legal address. Get to that location. They can register you and you can vote all at the same time. This was something that never used to be before. So let's make sure that people are understanding that you can vote. If you've been to jail, you can vote. If you've been a felon, you can vote. They've done away with those restrictions because they realize it is a constitution violation for them to take away your right to have a voice in your community. Everyone wants access, and that is the key thing. So I want to get to this reality check. All right, as we begin to talk about what the real meat of this conversation is, and Rob, you let me know when it's time for us to take a break, all right? As we get to the real meat of this conversation.
Now before you get into it.
Okay, okay, so what we'll do is we'll take a break now, and when we come back, we're going to talk about 50 Cent, Kanye West, Ice Cube, Lil Wayne, please, Jesus. We're going to talk about this whole concept about the 94 crime bill, and then we're also going to get into this law and order president. And I need us to shed some light on what is the difference. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Straight Talk.
Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen on KISS 107.1. If you want to see some change.
All right, so
I've learned you enough to know that if you want to get started, it's not good to interrupt with something like that.
No, you're absolutely right. But I want to see, Rob, I don't know what we're looking at here with you. I'm gonna see what happens if I get off. Now, y'all.
Well, let me see what I'm recording here. I've been logged on.
Yeah, I'm gonna see what happens real quick for those of you who are out there. Ooh. Trying to see how we're gonna get this going. Y'all, are you all hearing me? Yes, in Michigan. That's correct, Jeff Bulls. Are you guys hearing me okay, or is it just the graininess of my movement? Can you let me know? Because if you can hear me and my movement is just the only thing grainy, then I'll keep going. Otherwise, I will make some changes. Let me know. It's the internet connection. Okay, it's the internet connection. But stay tuned. I can't do anything about that.
Yeah, sorry about that.
They got me in a closet here. When I become Steve Harvey, then we can have an internet connection. I'm just joking. Cool.
Here's what I've seen. That's
Yours is clear.
because I don't have a non-Apple product.
No, it's because you're not on the same internet thing that I'm
I
on.
am. Well, okay, I'm on the.
Yeah, that's what that is.
That could
See,
be. Well, you came up nice though. You came up on it. I don't know.
yeah.
You try logging off and going back on.
But if I log off,
Yeah, because that's that's really grainy.
do you all want me to end this and then restart this broadcast?
You got a minute. You got a minute. Less than a minute.
I got a minute to do it. Say
Less-
something.
less
Speak
than a minute.
now.
Here's James on his support for President Trump. Supporting our president's agenda 2,000%.
James is supporting Trump 2,000%.
John James wants to represent us, but he backs Trump 2,000%.
And listen to James attacking
Okay.
Obamacare.
We'll stay then. We'll stay with it today and work on it.
I'm
Gotcha.
just the same internet. I'm just different access code. That's all. We're the same internet on the building.
Yeah, no. I got that. No, okay. We got you.
20 seconds.
His words.
That's President Obama's signature accomplishment. And James calls it a monstrosity.
James wants to
Yeah, we gotta get this
repeal
fixed because we're gonna need this going strong come 2 weeks from now.
I'm going to work 2,000
Stand by.
harder to re-elect Gary Peters.
I'm Gary Peters, candidate for Senate. Can I approve this?
Paid for by Peters from Michigan.
It's Straight Talk.
What's going on, Michigan Bay region? This is Kareem, and we are back with more of Straight Talk. It's time for our reality check. It's time for us to check the black vote on today. I'm going to ask you guys some real quick questions. Okay, what are the issues? And I need you all that are out there via social media, or those of you who are listening to me, just stay tuned, and I'm going to share with you what they're saying. What are the reasons for those of you out there who are not voting, or those of you who are hesitant for not voting for not Trump, anybody other than Donald Trump? What are the reasons? I want to know what those reasons are, but I want to begin by addressing some issues, and we're going to roll this thing right into where I want to go with this, all right? 50 Cent, Kanye West, Ice Cube, and now Lil Wayne. All right, what do these guys all have in common? I almost said in clown. I was gonna say because I'm all giving them all the clown crown. That's what I want to say. They all get the clown crown, but I want to, their endorsement of Donald Trump, and I must be clear. Ice Cube did not endorse Donald Trump. So he is. There are now 3 shows that are happening. The one on social media, the one that's on the radio, the one that my producer is producing off script here. All right, so Ice Cube did not endorse Donald Trump, but I want to talk about these conversations, and it's funny because I'm like, do you remember, say, Steve Harvey? What about John Gray? Oh, we're just gonna sit down and have a conversation with him. He's got some issues on a whole nother level. But I want to talk about this thing with black men. I want to get back to this again. And I know there's black women out there that are doing these things, but these black entertainers, people, and this is the problem, and here's the violation. All right. And so I need y'all to understand what makes me so upset about this situation and why I'm perturbed by these individuals particularly. We got a lot of other people that are endorsing Donald Trump, and you do what you want to do. I don't care, if you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent. I don't care what you are. But looking at this particular situation, and this number 45 is a different individual altogether. And the problem that I have is this, and I need y'all to hear me. And if you don't feel what I'm feeling, then you kick back. I'm waiting for some response right there. And I'm going to let y'all talk. I'm not going to shut y'all down and give y'all, this is my show. Not today. Okay, let's talk about it. Because I think this is too important. And with only a couple of days, 2 days left before many of us will cast that ultimate great voice ballot, which is our vote. I think that we need to have this conversation because there's a lot of people out there that are not voting because of a couple things here. But when I look at 50 Cent's, Kanye, and Lil Wayne. I won't put Ice Cube in this because he says I'm not voting for anybody. But had Donald Trump told him what he wanted to hear, he would have endorsed Donald Trump. Okay, so let's be real about this. The problem is this: these individuals specifically. This is not Denzel Washington. This is not Blair Underwood. This is not Michael Ealy or Morris Chestnut. These are individuals who are iconic in what we consider urban communities. These are people from the hood. These are the men who made their money off of talking about issues or portraying the issues that we can relate to from what happens in our community. All right. Y'all want to have some straight talk conversation? Okay. Class is in session. It's time to have that conversation. The issue that I have is because these individuals, 50 Cent, he would have never, I mean, if it wasn't for, and really most of his music was bought by little white kids in the suburbs. But the fact of the matter, he was portraying music, the candy shop, all of the songs that were going on. He's got black women in his video, exploitation of black women. He's talking about the issues. He's talking about get rich or die trying. We got Kanye West, who, he's iconic. He does what he wants to, but it is those beats. It is the collaboration with the black men and the black beat and hip hop has a culture. There is a lifestyle. There is a pattern that breathes that these men come from. And I believe that they are violating the code of the streets. And I'm not talking about and the reason I say that is this, because they can be rich and they can vote for whoever they want to. I don't have an issue with that. But they also have to understand what they have represented for so long, what they mean to Little Johnny and Little Kim, not Little Kim, the rapper, but Little Kim, these young black minds, these young impressionable minds. They have a responsibility to make sure that when they speak, because so many times they speak for Black America.
Quote unquote.
Yeah, quote unquote Black America. And so to have them come out and to be so full-throated in their support of a man. If this had been any other Republican, I think I could almost stomach this differently. And I'm not a Republican, I'm an independent, okay? Independent Jeff, you understand what I'm talking about. But the issue is here. They have come out so full-throated with this president who has said that he will not come to the fact to say that Black lives doesn't matter. He struggles to do it. He has signed legislation for training that would make us understood, the Black plight, have a better understanding, for people to be able to have some level of empathy or understanding with where we have come from as a people. It's racist. It's reverse racism, whatever that is called. He has done so much to hurt us. And then he says to us, arrogantly, I have done more for Black people than any other president in the United States. Well, the reality of the sex is when you came in, yes, we thank you for your signing of the criminal justice reform. It was necessary. But you know what? You said in signing that bill that in your second term, you would have, yes, I'm the least racist person in the whole room. But when you signed that, I think he also understood, I'm going to give them some trinkets so that they will vote for me when I come back. I'm going to sign $1,200. And I want to put my name. Somebody say, he gave us $1,200. He gave us stimulus money. That was not his money. And I know that it came with a Donald Trump signature on it, but that was all a part of the mental plan to make you think that this man cares about you when you see every single day that he does not. I got a problem with that. If they had done anyone else, it could make sense. But they have for so long, so many of our young Black people, our young Black boys and girls desire to be like Lil Wayne, desire to be like Ice Cube, like Kanye, because what they represent, and I'm not talking about the foolishness, but they represent a culture where a young Black boy or girl can have talent. They can come from the worst conditions in our community, and they can use that talent to come out of the ghetto. But what they have shown is that once I get out of the ghetto, then it's okay for me to lose my identity, and I'd be concerned. Lil Wayne, I don't want to pay more taxes. Like 50 cents, I don't want to pay more taxes. Lil Wayne was just saying that he doesn't want to be a politician. Well, if you don't want to be a politician, go in the corner and shut up and sit down. But here he is making this public endorsement. Why? because they're selfish. Why? Because they're self-centered. Why? Because we have blown their egos up so big that the only person that has any value in their lives is themselves. Ask the women whom they're married to. I'll almost guarantee you, you get the same thing. So that is why I have a problem with this. But let's talk about family. Let's talk about this conversation about the 94 crime bill. And those of you who are listening, let's really begin to look at this because we have two presidents now. Am I crazy about Joe Biden? And like, am I flipping back? Doing no? I'm absolutely that is absolutely not what he don't make you excited about him because unfortunately. There was a reason why number 45 called him Sleepy Joe because he looked like he forced him to keep his eyes open. But that's his personality. He's always been that guy. Even though he was clean in that last debate, suit had the tan, haircut tight. Joe, I was like, you doing it, Joe? Keep that up. But the fact of the matter is this.
Obama got him like that, probably.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He ain't got that swagger, okay? So he's not Obama. And I know many of we have issues with Obama because we feel like when we got a black man in the White House, everything's supposed to change. He should paint the White House black as the rap lyrics would go back in the day. Come on, y'all knew that foolishness wasn't happening.
Chocolate City.
But when we look at Joe, we need to look at a stark contrast between what Joe Biden is presenting, and we want to talk about his 94 crime bill because I think that's something that all of us have take issue with in our community. If you are pro-black, and being pro-black doesn't mean that you're anti-white. Let me say that really clear. But if you are pro-black and you are concerned about your people, our legacy, our future, and the foundations by which we're to build, you should have an issue with the 94 crime bill. I'll give you that. So let's contrast these two things here, okay? So the 94 crime bill, let's put this in context. It came 1994. In 1992, crack had entered the scene probably 89, 90. Before it was cocaine. Cocaine technically was a white man's drug because the cost of it was more expensive, So cocaine was on the scene. Then they came up with this new thing, said, hey, we can expand and explode our audience. We can increase our numbers. Y'all saw American Gangster. Y'all know what we're talking about, right? So let's get crack. We'll sell this to the brothers and we'll give the brothers this. Now, this thing is more potent than cocaine is. It is cheaper than cocaine is, and it gives you a higher high than cocaine does. But it wasn't pushed into the communities where the cocaine was. It was pushed into urban communities as the black man. 1988. There you go, Jeff. 80. I said 89, 88. So 1988, 89. That it hits the scene. By 1992, I need you to understand this. The use of cocaine in America, so the statistics say, had begun to decrease almost by like 1,500 cases of the cocaine use had been by users. But when we look at crack had almost doubled from 1988 to 1992 in terms of the use of it. It was the time we talked about what happened to our community. It became the time when fathers were being hooked on this drug. We got to look at unemployment. We got to look at all of the issues that were going on. Our brothers were coming back from a war with no place to go. The Vietnam War was happening. Many black men buy into this fact. I go get a good education and a good paying job when I go to the military. A black man has no place in a white man's army, but we went because it was what was available. They're coming back and they're wounded. They're wounded emotionally, mentally. They're not finding jobs. There is a serious mental health issue that's going on. Deanna, I hear you. They planted it in black neighborhoods, locked us up, and threw away the key for using it. So what happens here is now this black community, it is spreading like wildfire through the black community. And we now have, crack babies. Brenda got a baby, 1990s, 94. All of this stuff is going on. So when 1994 comes, because 92 crack had doubled in, people were afraid. And I need you to understand who was afraid. Let's be clear about this. We were afraid. We were trying to figure out what was happening in our neighborhoods. In New York City, I remember being in Harlem right around that time. I had just graduated from high school. And I remember people like just walking down the streets, brownstones that were once beautiful when I had come in the 80s were now like crack addicts sitting on the corner, houses being abandoned. Our communities were being infested by this new thing called crack
Just
cocaine.
about everybody's family, including my own, had somebody that was affected by crack. I had an older brother and my older sister, and it's devastating to see them go through it. They got out of it, thankfully, but when they start stealing from you and doing all kinds of things, whatever it is they want to do, it can capture you.
Yeah, and we had a personal situation in our family that hit us the same way, same thing. Now that I think about this, and so who was afraid? We were all afraid. White America was afraid that we was going to cross the tracks into their neighborhoods and begin to do to their neighborhoods what we were doing to our own. But they knew what was going on. They gave us something that was lethal and potent. Now let's be very clear. No black man has a plane to bring this stuff over on. And when you begin to look at, American Gangster, you see Denzel Washington playing, that old gangster in the movie. He did what the other people were doing, but yet he was still controlled and limited to his access by those who were really running the game. So I need us to be very clear. This was an intentional plant.
And there's a show called Snowfall that ABC, I think FX does. That's about along the same lines.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we got to be aware that this was an intentional plant. Hey, give them this. They'll be high. They'll take care of each other. We won't have to deal with them anymore. And it became a nuisance in our community. And your representatives were upset. Your pastors were afraid. Your parents, the mothers, the community officials, the mayors were afraid because they had never seen anything that would ravage an individual's mind so much that when you saw them after prolonged use that you no longer could realize who they were. So the 94 crime bill came into fruition, and Joe Biden was, one of the co-authors of this thing. But I need us to understand something about this. The 94 crime bill, and the reason I'm saying this because I want us to really transpose or look at these two things in consideration. One, the law and order president versus the 94 crime bill. The 94 crime bill caused mass incarceration. It was a good idea because it was going to be tough on crime, tough on drugs. It was going to get drugs off our street. We're going to say no to drugs. Nancy Reagan, 1984. We're going to say no to drugs. We're going to, fight our community. Self-destruction. You're headed, we're going out. We're marching. We're hitting the streets. We're taking back our communities. And the way we got to do is we got to get this. We got to be tough on crime. We got to say no. We got to block this from coming in our community. So the black community bought into this concept. 85% of the Congressional Black Caucus agreed with the doctoring of the 94 crime bill. So when it was written, it was adopted because everybody saw that drugs and crack cocaine were a major issue in the black community. Okay. Now, was this the only issue? No. But what they did, and honestly, they knew that there were some issues. So that's why 15% of them said, well, we're struggling because this is not the best answer, but we can't come up with a better answer at this time. And the problem was they were treating this public health issue as a crime issue. We get it. We understand this.
Well, it was also a health issue too because we had AIDS at the time. It was still
absolutely.
Still full blown.
So the using, so all of that is coming into fruition. We got to figure out how are we going to stop this from happening.
Crack and AIDS.
So we've got to begin. So what we begin to see is that we now see how are we going to deal with this issue, and we've got to begin to understand that this bill was written, and 85% of Congressional Black Caucus. These are the people that we voted to put in office. These are the people who represent us, the people who come to our barber shops when it's time to get elected, that come by and buy a rib dinner. They all agreed to this. Now, hindsight is 2020. And so now we are looking at, and what we realize when we go back and look statistically at this particular thing is that it was responsible for mass incarceration of blacks because crack cocaine was a black thing. There was this new resurgence of the use of the death penalty. We are now penalizing and using law enforcement to attack a mental health, a public health issue instead of dealing with it as a public health issue. We now criminalized it and we're using it as a criminal issue. The other thing was the tough on crime mentality. It was the inequality of the punishment Crack cocaine had a life sentence where cocaine had a year or two sentence, 18 months. The other problem with this is that, like I said, we treated this as a criminal justice issue.
The disparity is what was going on.
And so there was a great disparity. So a lot of black folks, your family, my family, your play cousin, and everybody in between was now being sent to prison because of this crack cocaine epidemic. Okay, we got to begin to look at this. But who were the people who agreed to this? Joe Biden didn't write the bill and just became law. 85% of our constituency, 85% of those people who say we voted to have our best interests in hand agreed with him that this was probably the best thing to do. The pastors in your church agreed with this. The school teachers agreed with this. Absolutely. And we can talk and we can mince this. Jeff, I take into consideration, he says his son was doing it during the same period. He didn't treat him like a criminal. They know the difference. Absolutely, they know the difference. But what I want to say is he didn't do that to his son, but our leaders did it to us. So if we're going to be mad about the 94 crime bill, let us deal with what's in-house first. What was the reason that our people were allowing this thing to happen? I agree with you, Jeff and Deanna. I understand. I am angry when I think about it, how they use this particular situation. But the fact of the matter is, you know what? As we weren't fooled, we weren't stupid, we weren't uneducated, but we went along with this because we didn't understand exactly what would happen. So this is the thing that we're now dealing with, okay? So he has come out, he's tried to play with it. Hey, I made a mistake. This wasn't the best at the time. He wasn't the only one. We made a mistake. Your leaders made a mistake. Our pastors made a mistake. Our community made a mistake. We made a mistake, so now we got to do something different. I want to ask you the question, what if the mistakes that you made in your life you could not ever, make correct? You were always held accountable for every mistake that you did without any chance of ever doing anything differently. And so now we're dealing with this because I need to put this in contrast to what we're dealing with. Both of these things come from a period of time when we were, as black people, we're always been under the thumb, but they're putting us in a situation that we've got to begin to choose. And many of us are choosing, I'm not going to vote for Joe Biden because we got locked up. Man, you went to prison, you stole it, you did the crime, do the time, shut up, and let's make a change. Dang, that was kind of hard.
In other words, choose the worst of the two evils. If you think they're both evil, choose the better of the two evils, rather. Don't choose the worst of the two evils.
And don't look at this through a microscope. Look at this through a broader lens and see this whole situation. Okay, so now what takes place is that Nixon. So now we have the law and order president, and I need y'all to understand what this is. When you hear the term law and order president, and you've heard them say, "Hey, this is a dog whistle. This is a whistle." And many of you are like, what do they mean that this is a dog whistle? In 1964, remember, Lincoln, the Emancipation Proclamation, he was the one who freed the slaves. So black people, I don't know if you're aware, but blacks, from a historical perspective, were not Democrats. They were Republicans because it was Lincoln who freed the slaves. So now we're working a man by the name who's running for president by the name of Goldwater. In 1964, he became what he called the War on Crime president, okay? Because once blacks were set free off the plantation, it then became a crime to be jobless, to be homeless. So they militarized the police to put us back in jail. Now we're working as indentured service with worse service and no need for a master to take, because if you die, he just gets rid of you. All right. Before, if you died, then he had to make, his plantation was hurt. Now he just get another one and replace you. So now we're dealing with a situation that blacks are now looked at. The war on crime. What did that mean? Blacks were criminals. It was a dog whistle to make white people living in their suburban homes with their 2.5 children, their white picket fences, and their Model T Fords saying, hey, we're tough on crime. That means those black people want to break in your house. Those black men want to look at you and rape your women. And so he became the war on crime president with that slogan. He tried to be, actually. He lost because the black people were like, yo, we're here and we're supporting, and you're making us out to be the enemy. And there was a mass exodus of black folk from the Republican Party to the Democratic Party.
And people don't know that. People don't know that the Republican Party and the Democratic Party changed almost overnight.
Absolutely. And with Goldwater. But what happens in this period of time, I need you guys to understand the Civil Rights Act of 1964. That's when it became against the law to discriminate in public or government funded situations. So jobs, employment, all of those things. The Civil Rights Act of 1964. Then an addition or an expansion of that law in 1968. Housing and finances is basically what was happening. No more redlining, the bank entrance, you can't discriminate on loans, all of those things. So 1964 is when that's happening. 1968 is when this is going on. What happens at that time? We have Nixon, who becomes elected as the law and order president. This is where your number 45 gets this from. How can we not forgive Joe Biden, who created a law that he thought was good, and our people, our leaders thought was good, and we look at it and say, no, it was bad. But we have somebody who is invoking the racist attempt of Nixon by using the term law and order president. That is a dog whistle. Why? Because civil rights marches had now become prevalent. 1964, remember? We're fighting for our voting rights. We're fighting, not voting rights, we're fighting for our equality in the workplace. Our
Voting rights is part of that too.
Yes, so we're doing all these things. At this time, there's also the Vietnam unrest. People coming home, the protests were out of this world. And I need you all to understand
And the
this.
sexual revolution.
Donald, that's something different. But what I need you all to hear is I need you guys to see the similarities to what's going on here. We were doing a nonviolent march. The reason we were doing a nonviolent march because our leaders recognize if we go in there and we try to be violent and they have guns, they've got sticks, they've got the law. There's no way that we could have ever won. So we were nonviolent in our protests. That was our DNA. Much like we see with these protests that are happening today. For the most part, the protests are nonviolent. But what happened was those protesters from Vietnam, who were largely not black protesters, who were white protesters, came in and started throwing bombs and lighting fires and turning over and rebel rousing and being upset, just like we saw happening in Minneapolis. Those types of things were taking place, and they began to try to lump all of the protesters, those for civil rights and those who were protesting the war, all together. Now the black man is seen as, see, I told you he was violent. See, I told you he was going to be, they're destructive, like we were innately just violent individuals. And so we were being lumped in by Nixon, who is now the law and order president, to bring this thing into fruition. Just like today,
50 years later,
he's invoking the same thing. We are being set back 50 years by a president who is blowing the same whistle, saying, no, Black Lives Matter movement, they're horrible, they're criminals, they're this. I mean, the protests, but every white, the white boys are good boys. The Proud Boys, oh, they're good, fine people. But we are violent. Why? Because we're naturally evil. We're naturally mean. And it's the same whistle that causes white America to run to the heels. You said something, Rob, at the beginning of this thing, that for a long time, whites have always been afraid to have the conversation about race. You know why they've been afraid to have the conversation of race? Because it means that I have to take responsibility for the things that maybe I wasn't here to do, but my forefathers have done. It means that I have to come to a reckoning that what I have at the disposal of your forefathers. It means that I inherited a privilege that you didn't have, but you were paying the price for me to have the privilege. That's why you don't want to talk about it. Why? Because there's a lot of pain. There's a lot of guilt. There's a lot of reckoning that must take place. And so I need us to realize that what we're hearing today, law and order president, criminalization of black people, the association of black people with violence and fear. Hey, I want that suburban family, which I don't know what kind of suburb. This was like high-end suburban, coming out with guns on protesters who are walking down the streets. That's what you should do. Support them. Bring them to the Republican Party. This is dangerous conversation. Black America, we may not get everything that we want in this election. And let's be very clear about that. I recognize that. Joe Biden is not our great white hope. And no man should be. But what we have to realize, and you've got 2 days to cast your vote, those of you who haven't already voted, this becomes a very fundamental question. Are you okay with somebody who has made a mistake and has acknowledged, hey, it wasn't the best decision that I made, and he didn't make the decision alone? Are people responsible for a lot of what had taken place and passing this into legislation? Or are you okay with someone who is dog whistling and now he doesn't need your vote this second term? Now he gave you the crime reform and all criminal justice reform, but that was because he said that when he ran in 2020 that he would get 80% of the black vote. He said that he would get 15 to 25% of the black males to vote for him. Why? Because black men can recognize, I think, honestly, Jenny DeMore, a lot of pain caused by people want change. Absolutely. I believe that a lot of black men can relate to a man who's powerful, who does what he wants to do, who is not limited by anything. He does exactly what he desires, whether it's right or wrong. And I think that men can recognize that. And I think that many of our black men think that, we can walk that same path. But as I said to you guys on last week, your dollar is devalued. You can be a billionaire, Kanye West, but being a billionaire against another billionaire in America who is not black has a greater power because your dollar is devalued. And this is, and I'm not preaching hate, I'm preaching the reality of the situation. We've got to understand this. And if we don't, we'll begin to jump on a Trump train. 10% of African American men in this election are expected to vote for Donald Trump. How is that? For the law and order president who is blowing a whistle to say that these black men are scary, but you're going to go stand in hand with him because he gave you a tax break. So now you will negate the plight of the entire race and begin to stand us up because I am self-benefit. We've got to stop this. We've got to begin. We got to understand that Rome wasn't destroyed from without. It was destroyed from within. Until we as a people begin to understand that, yes, I could benefit from, and I've heard some people say this, yes, I would benefit from being in that from him being president financially, but it's not about me. There has to be a point in time that we stop being crabs in a bucket and we begin to realize that we are only as strong as our weakest link. And I look for and I see a time on the horizon. My people, let me tell you, this is not all dismal. But I needed to put this in a light so that you can begin to really see, are you really willing to be set back? I'm afraid there are relationships, Rob, that I have had with my white counterparts that have been estranged. There are some people, and Latin America, Hispanic American, Mexicans, let me just be clear. Mexicans, I don't understand some of y'all. This man is shutting the border. He is saying what he believes. You guys are rapists, murders. Oh, he was talking about he's talking about Mexicans. He's giving the white American population, the understanding that he's talking about Mexicans who are crossing the border. Let's be clear, my Hispanic American friends. Your people, you did not get here on a Santa Maria or the Nina Pinta. That means that you didn't come over in slavery. But somebody in your lineage crossed that river, the Rio Grande. You came away across, someone, well, we came legally. You can't prove that. And how about all of the many people that have come across illegally and now are being such a great benefit to I met one guy out in California a number of years ago, came across, his parents were illegal. He's now a legal resident. His parents still are not legal citizens here, but he is providing a great service, $1 million business in California, multi-million-dollar business. So I don't understand how you can stand with somebody who doesn't recognize your value, who doesn't see you as a whole individual, who sees you as a voting block and not as a person who has a heart and who breathes and lives like everybody else. We've got to do better. There's an election coming up, and we've got a very clear decision to make. We can either allow people to capitalize on the fear of the black man, that we are violent, that we are scary, that we are other, as they're doing with even Kamala, making fun of her name. Our names are different. Our names often come from a place of heritage. Not all of them. Some of y'all got them names that y'all need to pray about, but our names often have a meaning that is deeper than what is spoken. Are you okay with being thrown out and described or being portrayed as other? Are you okay with that you would say, I'm not going to vote because of the crime bill in 1994?
Some of y'all weren't even born in 1994.
They don't even know what it's about. Let me tell you, somebody said something, they were watching a Planet on TV, and now they're saying, oh, because you are 25 years old. You have no clue what you're talking about. So yes, we're not going to get everything that we want out of this election. Let's be very clear about that. But what we now have to do is say, who can we work with? Somebody said, well, I'm not going to vote at all. And I say this, if you respect, one of the greatest things in life is this concept. I'm beginning to understand it more the older that I get, is this concept called legacy. And what I realize is that when I respect the legacy of those who offered me opportunities and who created a pathway for me to be able to do the things, for me to be on the radio, I think about it now and I begin to think about what is my legacy in life. And I want my legacy, what I leave here on this earth, and I want to die empty. All the purpose that I have, I want it all out on the table, regretting absolutely nothing. Um, I want us to begin to realize that if we want people to recognize and respect our legacy, that means that we also have to respect the legacy of those who have come before us.
The ones who did all the work and sacrifice for us.
And so if you don't want to vote, I say, okay, you don't want to vote, but I say use that as an opportunity to respect someone else's legacy. Respect the legacy of those your grandparents and your great grandparents who gave their life so that you could have this right to vote. That's their legacy. Don't respect theirs because you don't want anyone to disrespect yours. Jeffrey Bulls out there in social media says, us not being self-interested is why we're in the spot today, voting for a lesser evil. We have specific issues in our community. Class issues, do not address them. What's the definition of insanity? And I agree with you, Jeffrey Bulls, to do the same thing over and over and expect a different outcome. What is the definition of crazy? To vote for somebody who has already shown you who they are, and you still do it. So my thing is this: there's only two people on the ballot, and I agree with you, Jeff. I think that coming out of this, starting in November of 2020, after this election, we need to begin to set some things in place. We need to begin to say who are going to be our candidates, who is speaking to the needs of our community, and we need to begin to galvanize support around those issues, those individuals right now. We've got to begin. We always wait to the last minute to throw somebody's hat in the ring when we could be molding them and preparing them for the next wave of people. Now, there's an election going on out there today. I need y'all to understand. You need to go out and vote for Joe Biden. You may not like him, you may not want him, and he is the lesser of two evils. I get that. But he is somebody that we can find ourselves building an alliance with to eventually get to a place that we are hearing and receiving some of the things that we consider important. I don't think that we're ever going to get that opportunity on the other side of the table. So you got to work with who's going to be most willing to work with you to bring the change that you want to see. And then we begin to create our own candidates to put them in office. You got to keep voting to change the situation. All right. Election time is coming up. I only got 1 minute left. I want to give a shout out to my boy, George Copeland, who's out there running for city council. Curve and Merle, y'all shout out to these individuals. Tayvale Richmond, I had a conversation with him today. You my guy, give me my t-shirt for the Saginaw school bond. Come on, say yes. You're voting for the future, not for today. Say yes to the millage. It's only going to be for between $8 and $24 for most people. The average individual, maybe $30 a month. That can change the life of a person. Thank you guys for tuning in today. Go out and vote, vote, vote. This is Kareem tuning off. Grace and peace.
You've been listening to Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen on KISS 107.1. The views and opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen by the host, its guest, or call-ins do not necessarily represent the opinion of this station, the staff, its owners, Alpha Media USA, or its advertisers.
KISS 107.1.